manufacturing, technology, hot topics, and a little bit of tomfoolery. This is the MTD Podcast.
So welcome to today's MTD CNC podcast. We're here at Hurco's Open House. I'm with Gio at the moment. It's just myself and him, or I should say Gio and myself today. We're going to be welcoming guests onto the podcast today, so it should be a good show. Gio, how are you doing?
Yeah, good morning, Paul. I'm very well. Got stuck in a bit of traffic this morning, though.
Seems to be a common theme, that does. Gio stuck in traffic. You recovered from Saturday night?
Nearly.
For those that don't know, we had the MTD Christmas do on Saturday night at the NEC. Gio last seen, I think, was about 4:30 in the morning in the Genting Casino. Not the first time, is it?
No.
Won't be the last either.
Hopefully it will. But, yeah.
So we're here today, Gio, at Hurco. I mean, the focus, the topic has to be the technology that's on show, the tooling partners. That's a big part of the event here. You were here yesterday as well. You produced a great video. We have it on our YouTube channel. You can visit that to see, also on the MTD CNC website. What was your take from day one?
I think day one was fantastic. I think that what really impressed me from day one was the new technology and the new machine tools, especially the new software that they've introduced, which can really simplify programming, if you like. So especially on the fifth axis machine, when you can send a file to...
It's like a step file, isn't it? You send a step file straight in.
A 3D step file. So for me personally, it lends itself more to fifth axis machines than standard 3-axis machines, because you can hit all 5 sides. It generates the programs and the depth of each face, and you know, if you're looking to do low volume work and you're constantly changing, you know, you don't know what you're getting next through the door, what's your next job, and you're making things that have never been made before, and you're programming on the machine. This is just perfect. I don't think anyone else actually offers this.
It's pretty unique to Hurco, and for those that are actually listening and not watching, because we are streaming this as well, we're here at the Hurco showroom. There's 11 machine tools on show, everything from 5-axis through to their small VM5 machining centres. It's quite a small showroom as well, isn't it, that they've got here? That's why it often seems so very busy, but I know they're moving too.
Yeah,
they've outgrown it.
It's very compact. Yeah, they've had growth year on year. This year is yet another record year, and the year before was a record year, and I think that's just kind of it's
testament to the machines that they produce. I mean, hopefully as well later on in the podcast we'll get David Waghorn on, who's the managing director of Hurco Europe, and we'll get some of his thoughts, not just on the event, but also on Hurco's year 2018. Who are some of the other guests we're going to try and get on, Gio, today?
So I think we're going to try and get a selection of guests, some of the technical partners especially, so work holding technical partners, software technical partners, automation technical partners, and the reasons why they are here, why they are supporting Hurco, and also hopefully Dave, like you mentioned, and kind of try to discover the secrets behind his success.
The Hurco machines, there's 2 here that if you've watched some of our previous videos in the build-up to the event, the BX range, I don't know whether you took a chance to look at that yesterday, but typically mould and die machines, very heavy duty machining centres, especially the BX50 with that gantry design, is a machine that is definitely attracting a lot of attention here today. But I think in the first instance what we'll do is we'll try and get Matt from Microlot over. Can you gesture to him, Gio? So we've got Matt from Micron Work Holding, the innovators of the Microlot
morning, Matt.
product. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Gio.
This is your second day here at the show. Good show for Microlot.
It's been a very good show. Yesterday, in particular, we had 2 really good inquiries. One from Scotland and one from Ireland, and generally it was very busy, well attended.
For our listeners as well, give them some. If they're not familiar with your product, what is it?
Well, we manufacture the Microlot work holding system, all made in the UK by ourselves, based in Cambridgeshire. It's a versatile, expandable work holding system designed for 3 and 4 axis machines. But we're also agents for the Vischer and Bolly dock lock work holding system and the Vischer and Bolly 5-axis vices.
And then you've got a lot of your kit on these machines here?
We have. On the VM5, we've got one of our Kit 75 Plus systems, which looks really good on that machine. It utilises the machine fully. And we've also got one of our pyramids on the 5-axis pyramids on the 5-axis machine.
Is that on the VC500, the one that Gio was looking at yesterday, where you got the three components?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Would you say, Matt, that sorry to interrupt? Would you say, Matt, that engineers over the years are becoming more savvy? Would you say that your work holding was in a way ahead of its time, and now that they're realising its full potential and realising that it can utilise the full envelope of the machine and present more components to the spindle and become more productive? Do you think that's the case? Do you think it's becoming more and more popular?
I think so, and particularly our hydraulic system on the microlock it's almost in the past was too innovative, if anything, because it was hard to get people to go from a standard vice to microlock. The hydraulic was almost seen as a bit of a leap too far, but now with innovations with robots and robot loading and our hydraulic system being able to be integrated into the machine, I see that definitely as the future for us going forward.
It's interesting you make a comment. In fact, we've got the guys from Open Mind behind us. We're going to try and get them on the podcast shortly. I was only talking to them last week about how so frequently they get a telephone call from a machinist or a machining company, and they say, I'm buying a machine, therefore I need to buy a seat of Hypermill software, rather than going, I've got a machine, how can I get more out of this machine by buying the Hypermill software, which is similar to work holding, isn't it?
It is, yeah, definitely.
Some people might just have one part on a vice on a machining centre, and they go and buy another machining centre without
utilising what they got.
Yeah.
But you still see it, Paul. I still go into companies now, and they'll have a machine tool with a meter table, and they've got one vice in the middle of it. And I say to them, well, why didn't you just buy one of those mini mills? Why have you got a machine like this? Because you're not utilising it. And they say, well, we might utilise it one day, but that's not using their investment to its maximum capability. So yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely.
And that's the Hurco Open House here. How good is this setup for engineers to come round with all the partners that are involved, in your opinion?
It's really good. The good thing about Hurco is that they market it very well. It's very well attended. You get a lot of visitors from all over the UK attending. So as a supplier to Hurco, it's very important for us to be involved in it, because there's a lot of opportunity here for us to show our products to these people that may not have seen it before.
Good stuff. Matt, thank you very much for joining us.
I've got one more question, Matt, before you go. In regards to the evolution of work holding, and you've mentioned that your work holding products are now automation ready, and I think finally the UK market is embracing automation. We've been seeing it week after week. But in regards to Industry 4.0, people are monitoring their machine tools, they're monitoring their spindles through Industry 4.0.
Yeah.
But surely, how can they, say for example, if they didn't have the component held securely and they were getting vibration due to this, how can Industry 4.0 say that it was the work holding and not the machine? And is there got to be some advancement so we can get the full data from the process, if that makes sense?
No idea.
No idea.
I'll give you. I understand the question fully, and I do think that is an area, because certainly with cutting tools these days, they're starting to integrate those methods of extracting data. The machine tools are doing it. The automation solutions are doing it. So yeah, maybe there is an area there for improvement.
Work holding is a very important part to that as well. I mean, Microlock has proven in the past that by securing your workpiece properly and clamping it consistently and sitting it on, on a very flat, accurate platform, that it does reduce wear and tear on machinery. So your tooling data is going to be better from
better tooling longevity.
And better tooling longevity. So it is a big part of the cake, actually, if you want to look forward. So work holding is, it's very important.
So it's overlooked, in my opinion, massively.
It still gets overlooked a lot. Yeah.
So you have to stop those high-level questions, Gio. Apologies. Anyway, thank you very much, Matt, for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. Nice to see you again.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
And Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy the rest of the show. And I think next up, we've got a few people behind us here. We've got James from Renishaw that's going to join us. James, you want to come on to onto the podcast? It's like the green room over there, isn't it? By that VM5, eh? Nice to see you. Are you enjoying the Hurco event?
Yes, I am. It's busy, which is good.
If you could just speak a little bit closer to the microphones,
no
a little bit of background noise here in the, as you can expect with machines turning. So what Renishaw brought to the event today?
Well, we've got a long-standing relationship with Hurco, and I think predominantly we're helping add value to their machines. So there's an increasing drive towards automation in manufacturing, and adding a Renishaw probe or Renishaw tool setter to your machine tool allows you to remove some of that operator intervention into the process, and that drive towards automation and Industry 4.0, big gathering data from your machine tool, and I think people are starting to recognise that.
What is the uptake, in your opinion, when you talk to people about your products here? Is there a lot of, do they come here to see the machines, do you think? Do they overlook what you do? I don't mean that disrespectfully, but I remember when I was working in a machine shop, I used to come to, well, there's more trade shows then, and before, I know Gio's thinking of a joke there, I'm sure, but I used to just I wanted to come see the machines, the metal cutting, and sometimes I overlooked all these other, part or features that are available that could help me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think there's an element of that still. I think it's not really that we're overlooked as such. I think
they come here to see specific things.
Yeah, they do. They come here to see the machines, and I think that quite often I find that they're already aware of Renishaw and what it is that they do. They may say, "Oh yeah, we had Renishaw equipment in a previous company that I worked with," or and we used it a lot. Maybe it's just reminding them that we are there. And if they need our equipment on the machine, then it is an option to do that.
When you come to these open houses, you go to all these open houses, and you must have an opinion as well on how Hurco seems to have grown in recent years.
Oh,
have you seen that?
Yes, without a doubt. I think Hurco
what do you think the secret
are growing. The secret, I'm not sure, but Hurco have a quality product here. And I think that they've got a good level of service that they provide to their customers. So I think that's really good, and it's showing because we're seeing more and more Hurcos out in the field, and I think they are a growing company, and we're seeing more Renishaw probes on Hurco machines, which is great.
What do you think of Renishaw, Gio? When you think Renishaw, what do you think?
Well, I think with Renishaw, it's certainly an evolving company. It's constantly evolving. I think you certainly practice what you preach. So your products, you're using them yourselves when you're manufacturing your own products, so you can really see and analyse the benefits of your own product, and you can pass that on to your customers confidently, and they've been proven. And I think that when you come to have a look at an Hurco machine, you probably, Hurco machines are probably mostly using lower volume work rather than high production work. So, for the Renishaw equipment, in a way, yes, it's helping with automation, but a lot of the Hurco machines are not automated. They're more for lower volume work. But what I think they are doing, they're helping with achieving a stable process. So, you've got the Renishaw probes within the machine. You can check or probe the part if you're doing a billet, reset the datums or re-offset the So it's helping with a stable process, in my opinion.
Definitely. We find that the majority of the Hurco users are using the probe for job setup, getting rid of that sort of arduous process of setting up the job, setting up their tools, getting that process as close as they can to correct before they start cutting metal. And when you're making a batch size of 10 or 15, it's important to only have to make 10 or 15 and not 20 or 25 in order to get the batch size that you need. And I think that's where, in the majority of cases with Hurco, it adds value to the machine.
I think it's the same with a lot of what we've been seeing over the recent months, Paul, and a lot of what we've been discussing over the recent months. A lot of the products that are coming to the marketplace now are kind of simplifying processes, helping customers to achieve a stable process, whether that be to save time, to save setups, but also to maybe fill the gap, the skills level gap as well. It really is helping,
We probably want to conclude this, James, with a question to you. Tool presetting done off the machine compared to doing on the machine. We hear so many arguments about, why would you do it on the machine when you can set all your tools offline, you can keep that spindle turning. What's your argument against that?
Well, I think that there's a place for both. I do think that. I mean, at Renishaw we use tool presetters as well as using tool setters on the machine. We've at Renishaw been automating our manufacturing for 25 years, okay? Which is, as Gio was saying, about practicing what you preach. And a lot of companies are only just starting to venture into that level of automation that we've had previously. So when we load tools into the machine, we want them to be close to the size that they need to be, okay? Now, we would use a tool setter on the machine for that fine-tuning of the tools. It allows you to sort of make sure you've got that traceability through everything, so that your probe is measuring the same as your tool setter, which is, you know, compared to your tools and the position of the workpiece. It's tying all those pieces of the machine together inside the machine tool. And also, there are, with Renishaw tool setters, you have that ability to then check the tools throughout the process as well, okay? So you can be checking the tool when it comes in before you start machining, just to make sure that that length is exactly what you expect it to be, okay? And also, you can then be checking the tools as they go away to make sure the tool's not damaged before you want to use it again. The other side of it is also, is with a tool presetter, you're not 100% checking that that tool has been loaded into the correct pocket. With a Renishaw tool setter, you can say, okay, we're expecting that tool to be 153 millimeters long. When you measure it and it's 140, hang on, somebody's done something wrong here. We need to make sure that the correct tool's been loaded into the correct pocket.
Was that a good response there, Gio?
Fantastic. That was perfect.
tried.
Very informative. It's really good points that you've raised there, and I think that, in my opinion, open houses like this is a perfect place for people to come and learn something. And that is ultimately, if you can come to an open house like this, go back to your facility and pick something up and become more efficient from that, and evolve your company
Correct.
from that through the experience of people like Renishaw that have proven processes.
I think the important point also to add here as well, James, is that Renishaw isn't just known for a measurement of tools and the metrology aspect. There's a lot more to the business, the additive manufacturing, all those things that are coming out.
Correct,
so, but thank you very much for joining us on today's
That's no
podcast.
problem at all. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, James. Happy Christmas.
Yeah,
Thank you
happy
very
Christmas.
much. And
Nice
you.
to see you. Enjoy the
Take
rest of the Hurco show today. So who's next?
So we've got Adrian from Open Mind.
Okay, let's call him Adrian. Adrian is the Managing Director of Open Mind here in the UK. Just to kind of set the scene a little bit as well, I'm sure you're fully aware, but Open Mind are the supplier of the popular Hypermill software. Adrian, welcome to today's podcast. How are you finding the show thus far?
Oh, it's good. It's very, it is certainly very busy this morning.
Yeah, it was very busy yesterday. I know it's still early here on Wednesday. Let's get straight into it. Hypermill software, wow, what a year you've had this year and last year, and in fact the year before. Like Hurco, it seems to be one record year after another. Why is this happening?
I think people are recognising the real power of Hypermill now in not only the 5-axis area, which we've got a name for, but really from 2D to turning.
And what I'm also interested in is the fact that this company is only founded in about 1994, wasn't it, or 1995?
Yeah, around that time. Yeah.
Tell us about that heritage.
Well, from the early stages, we were a mould and die company, so the software was around mould and die manufacture, which is not something we do too much in the UK, primarily because of historical reasons of manufacturing in mould and die leaving the country. But that's our heritage, and really with the software, we were always from the very beginning about collision safety and making one-off parts correct right first time.
And where you've come to today, one of the points we were talking to Matt from Microlock earlier about is the fact that people still buy machines and then they ring him up and they say, I need a vice for this machine. People still ring you up and say, I bought a new machine, I need some software to drive it or to create the programs for it. And you guys are thinking, you maybe didn't need to buy that machine. You could have just done optimized. I mean, how often and common is that for you to be thinking? It's
very common. I mean, it doesn't happen so much with our own customers because they experience what they're using the software. But we do come into a lot of companies and they've had existing CAM solutions, and we're offering something different, something new, and you really optimize the machines they do have. And possibly if they'd done it, they used us sooner, they wouldn't be making that second purchase or a new purchase of a machine tool, because they could have got the best out of their machine tool they already had.
So what kind of, generic savings do you believe, if you had to kind of put some kind of percentage figure on savings, from, in the middle, the median kind of...
Yeah, it's almost like, what are the worst mistakes people make?
And what are the best kind of general savings that you would...
Well, because of that, like I say, that heritage, the first thing is the process of getting your first part off right first time is very simple with the Hypermill. We don't, people don't make 10 part or have a batch for 10 parts and they make 11 or 12 parts because they know the first two are going to be scrappers. We don't have that issue. The first part is always the right part, and so getting the first part off in time does save you a lot in the process. Not only the cost of re-engineering something on the machine tool or changing a process. The idea really is to get these parts off the machine as quick as possible so that you're making money. So we have a lot of processes, a lot of different unique ways of using or creating tool paths that enable you to do things differently inside Hypermill than you'll see in competitive solutions. And those processes can be up to 90% quicker than competitive CAM solutions.
Do you actually, sometimes, Adrian, from my time on and experience out in the field, you can go into companies and see people that, with all due respect, that they could be doing parts a lot better, in a lot more efficient way. Their processes are not correct. So do you actually help people improve their actual processes as well? Because your software can help program a certain feature, but the process in itself from, the operational sequence is something completely different.
Yeah, it's a twofold thing. Some people aren't ready for that, and so you have to bring them along the journey of where they are and where they could be. Some people recognise that they're not where they should be and want help to get there. So if the people are at a level where we would encourage them on the support desk or take a look at their problems and really offer a solution to enable them to do the jobs quicker and more efficiently. So it depends where these companies are in their journey to be really the best they can be.
I want to ask you, Adrian, and a question here, pretty high-level question maybe. As a CAM supplier, a CAD CAM supplier, are you the best at what you do? Because I know there is some competition out there. We talk to a lot of customers that use Hypermill, and there are certain areas they touch on that they really like about your software. And is it your growth because you are the best at what you do?
Yes. Simple. It's simple.
Very
answer.
confident.
And so what give me 2 or 3 reasons why that is.
We grow organically. So the reason why our growth is coming is because we develop everything in house. So we're not buying companies, or we're not buying up customers. They come because they recognise something or something we're offering, and so they will come needing a solution, and with Hypermill there is no upper ceiling as to what you can do. So you'll never reach a point where you need something else. There is nothing else higher than Hypermill. But in the same, without trying to be arrogant, we have to recognise that not everybody is there, and some people will do more simple parts. But even with the simple stuff, we really try and make it as efficient as possible so that they're getting the best out of their machine tools and their process. Because
a lot of the machines here, Hurco, tremendous 5-axis technology, the new high-speed mold and die machines, the BX range, all here, and that can utilise the benefits of improved cycle times and on their machines. But some of the machines are quite simple. The VM5 3-axis machining centre, some of their turning solutions, 2-axis turning. But what we're saying here really is there's still a place for Hypermill in those areas.
In all areas. Okay, so some of the real simple stuff you can get real benefits from. So why be content in being in putting some lazy toolpaths on the machine and the thing is cutting a lot of air or is not as aggressive as it could be. If the machines, even these more simple machines that aren't 5-axis, they can be really cutting really quite aggressively, and if you're not, you're just wasting time and money at the end of the day.
It's a great statement to say that you're the best, but automatically people will assume if you're the best, you're the most expensive. So what argument would you have, what kind of would you say to someone that would say that, and how would you change the perception? Because sometimes you'll be perceived to be more expensive and maybe you're not.
No, we're competitive. Like I like to say, we're competitive. We're not the most expensive, but we're not the cheapest for sure. But it's the benefits that we bring in the process. So, do you want to get your parts out right first time? Do you want a minimum amount of hassle when you're getting the parts out? Do you just want to get on with the job? Do you have short delivery times? You know, most of our customers, or a huge part of our customer base, is in the Formula One industry, and they just don't have the delivery times. You know, they need to be delivering parts next day or end of the week, and so they don't want the hassle. They just want the parts off the machine, delivered, and they get there and they get paid.
Let's think about sort of general engineering, subcontract machinists. Let's take 100 of them, maybe 4 or 5 machines in their machine shop. How many of those, if none of them had hypermill, how many of those do you genuinely feel could improve what they do and get a good return on investment for investing in your software?
I think there's a good proportion of those. I wouldn't like to say a number, but
20%, 30%, 50%?
More than that. But traveling around, it's all to do with time. People only have so much time. So if you make that process easier for them, you could say, well, they can spend more time in refining and get a process out. If we get to the end result quicker, they can come back and revisit and push the limit a little bit more. So we're about pushing the limit.
That's an excellent question, Paul, and I totally, I'm fascinated to know the actual figures, that haven't embraced your technology yet. And do you believe this is because of a confidence and educational aspect that they haven't embraced it? Do they? With me, I know if I don't know about something, I'm not confident in something. Maybe I wouldn't kind of look to invest in it. And is that the same kind of scenario with you?
Yeah, I think so. I think Hypermill really does have a name, let's say, in the 5-axis area. So we're perceived as the leaders in 5-axis technology, and that's what Hypermill does. So everybody thinks that, I'm not doing 5-axis, so I don't need Hypermill. But go back to the heritage. We are coming from a modern die to 3-axis, 2.5D machining. This is where we started from, and we have a big heritage, and still a lot of customers are doing that business and have never moved to 5-axis. So.
And I think there's a lot of likenesses between your company and our company, and the fact that you don't sit still. You made it very clear to me in a meeting recently that you have some of the most intelligent programmers, developers in the modern world. In fact, far cleverer probably than a lot of machine tool builders, because they need to be in order to get your software to be the best of the best, don't they?
Yeah, certainly. We bring together a lot of different processes. It's not just about putting some tool paths down. We need to understand the controls and what the machines are capable of doing. We have to bring a lot of disciplines into place to actually get the best from a machine tool. In the end, people look at a machine tool and see what it's doing and think it's about the machine tool. But in the end, it's a combination of a lot of things. It's about the machine tool, about the control, the tool paths that feed that machine, about the tooling that you're able to cut at the feeds and speeds required. So you just take things like roughing, for example. There's a ton of customers out there, or potential customers, that really don't push the limit on machine tools when they're just roughing, because possibly they feel uncomfortable or don't really know what the limit is. So that's why we're here really to show
And you
them.
stand firm on this one, don't you? This roughing, when we were talking the other week, is something that really you really want to get the message across to people that the majority are just not doing it in the way they should or could.
No, I mean, people do it and think if you're not standing next to your machine tool and you're uncomfortable, probably you're not pushing the thing hard enough. So you have to be uncomfortable, and it has to be making a bit of a noise.
It's like when you're on your bike, when you're running down the road, isn't it? Well, it's true.
Yeah. And if you're not doing that, then probably you're not as being as aggressive as you could be. So there's a lot of talk in the industry now about trachoidal machining and how this technique for getting a good result, which is, in my words, is great for if you're cutting difficult materials, Inconels, titaniums, those type of difficult materials. But you shouldn't really be using it on say, aluminium, because there's much faster ways to machine that. So we're always trying to push the limit based not only on just the tool path shape, but what materials you're cutting, what machines are right for you. So not every machine can take a very heavy cut based on the spindle power of the machine. So you have to adjust your toolpath techniques for those type of machines, and using modern tooling. If you are using tooling that's coming from a catalogue that's 10 years old, forget it. You're never going to push the limit. So you've got to be looking at modern tooling, modern toolpath creation and design, and you'll get a really nice result, even on older machine tools. And
the learning curve is actually, these days, from listening to your customers, is actually pretty easy.
For the customers, the 30, 40, 50%, whatever the case may be, that have not yet bought into, the benefits of using this type of software on their machine tools for whatever reason, what would you say to them? What would be your message to them to get them on board and for them to give you a trial?
Well, if you're feeling happy about leaving money on the table, in the end of the day,
you did that on Saturday night. Left it and lost it.
Yeah, you could be getting. People talk about the cost of software, but if you look at just a couple of minutes here on every job and it's running for the year, it's not really big money we're talking about here. So it's.
I think it goes. I think it's a brilliant way probably to conclude this. I know you've got some new developments coming up with your virtual machining and stuff like this, haven't you? Your collision the collision part of the software. We can probably touch on that at a later date. But I think it goes beyond leaving that money on the table. It also means that you can reduce maybe your tool costs, and you can get better longevity out of your machine by doing things differently, because I'm sure the CAM solution takes all that into account.
Absolutely, and one thing's for sure, the process is getting shorter. Every year the process gets shorter. People want quicker delivery times, they want a higher quality, they want to pay less money for it.
And if I could just say one last point.
That's another common bit about our business as well. Probably most.
And also the help that you give the machine tool industry in regards to, turnkey packages now are becoming more and more of a common theme within the industry, and they want the machine tools to arrive and they just want to press the button. And I'm sure that you're supporting OEMs like Hurco Machine Tools, but is this a big growth in your business?
I like to think so. I like to hope so. I like to think that these people would say nice things about what we give them. But yeah, I sort of call it risk offsetting, really. So it's people are offsetting the risk down to a machine tool company to make sure that when that machine comes in, they do press the button and it's making money for them. So yeah, and we try to support these people in that way, so that they can just drop a machine, they wire the thing up, and they start making money from it.
Good stuff. Adrian, leave your money on the table.
Cheers, Adrian.
Thank you very much for joining us on today's podcast.
Cheers, Adrian.
Cheers.
Massively interesting to talk about CAM and the influence it's having, and the success of Open Mind has been really phenomenal, as they said. We're going to keep moving this podcast. In fact, we've got Martin Page next from Hydrofeed who's going to join us. Martin, now for those I'm sure that are listening, you'll know Hydrofeed, a very popular brand of bar feed amongst other products these days. Martin, welcome to Martin. MTD's podcast.
Thank you very much.
You're here at the Hurco Open House. In fact, we see you at a lot of these open houses, don't we?
Yeah,
Are you following us around?
Yeah, no, I'll say the same thing about you guys. We do seem to bump in. It's that time we bump into one another. It's that time of year for us. But it's...
And if you could just speak a little bit closer to the mic when you're there, that will...
Okay.
And how influential are these open houses for you in your year in terms of the sales of your products?
Oh, very, very influential. We find certainly the Hurco one...
Was that a bar falling out of your bar feed?
No, it wasn't, Paul. No, it wasn't. No.
Sorry, carry on.
Thank you for that vote of confidence, Paul. Certainly the Hurco one we've been attending for a number of years. And in truth, it's proven to be very successful for us. We generally see an influx of orders from shows such as this. We'll almost automatically get a couple of 3 orders from Hurco in the new year, and it's very good. The other shows during the year generate the same kind of business for us. It's a way of keeping our profile up and keeping in front of customers. It allows us to meet and greet people and bring people to shows like this, and we try and support them as much as we can through our own social media, and My wife will tweet and put them on LinkedIn and use all the necessary...
Are you using those channels as well, Martin?
No, Paul, I'm not. No, I leave that to others far more deft at it than I am, but she does her bit and it works very well indeed. And we do see, undoubtedly, we will see a spike toward the end of the year in sales.
And that's as a result of this kind of October, November,
Absolutely,
December.
absolutely. What we attribute it to is that possibly it's very subjective, but my opinion would be that those customers that have maybe a fiscal year that ends at the end of December, rather than pay the tax man, they'd like to reinvest in their business. The orders that we get in December, as I've experienced this morning, are orders that we receive. Companies have funds that want to get rid of those funds, and they're quick orders. So being at exhibitions like this really, really helps us. Really helps us. Raises our profile. This particular model of bar feed that's here has been sold this morning. There's one next door that we delivered at the same time that's gone, all going on to Hurco companies. So it's very good.
It's an interesting one for me with the Hurco side, because there is a huge bias on milling, certainly at the moment, compared to the turning machines. But you're still seeing your product being successful as a result of these shows.
We are. Hydrofeed, without turning this too much into a sales pitch, Hydrofeed over the last 12 months, 2 years, our product range have metamorphosized itself from bar feeds into the robotics automatic loading, and we've never ever been able to do that. We've never been able to auto-load a milling machine. Because of the investment that Hydrofeed has put into that over the last 12 months or so, it's been incumbent upon me and others within the organisation to keep our core product flowing through the business. So we've worked extra hard on that, and in truth we've seen core product sales grow quite considerably over this past year, as well as the robotic side of it. So these kind of shows become even more important to us now, because we can equally supply the VMs as the TMs, so we can talk to them on every level now, which is really, really good for us. And as you said earlier, we're bumping into you at various shows. You've seen our products. The last show that we were at, we had bar feeds there. We had robots on both turning and milling application. Certainly the buzzword in our industry, I think you guys are as good a barometer as anyone, is automation. And we'd like to think that we're doing our bit to make Hydrofeed the turn-to company on that. So these shows give us that profile. They allow us to piggyback, if you like, to allow us to exhibit our goods at exhibitions like this.
That was really leading on to my question, really, Martin. You've got an automated solution now for the milling machine that's working really well.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, do you believe, and you'll obviously be able to see this through your figures, do you believe that the UK is actually finally starting to embrace automation and see the benefits from it? And do you believe that that's one of the reasons why work is finally coming back into the UK, because UK manufacturers can be more competitive while still producing a quality part?
Blimey, you know how to answer a question, don't you? You really do. Who trains you? Let me do my best on that. On the first one, yes, I do finally think that the UK is beginning to embrace robotic automation. However, my son Ashley is the man who's sales director within Hydrofeed selling that product. He still goes into places where he's told not to mention that the company are buying a robot. So there is this ethos out there that the UK workforce think that robots will be putting them out of work. However, Hydrofeed have now got a considerable amount of robots out there, and we are seeing that those people that have invested in the robots are seeing their headcount grow. But we are still way behind Italy, Germany, France and such like. But the governing factor that we're seeing is the lack of skilled staff within our industry.
Absolutely,
One of the main features, the commercial element of it, is you're paying a man good money. 70% of his time is done with repetitive tasks. The 30% is creative. He will load his billet, write his program, get the first off through inspection. Thereafter, it's a loading process, it's a pressing button. If you can get a robot to do that, free that man up to make his time far more interesting, you can pay him more, he becomes a bigger asset, it becomes more of an enjoyable day. That's where we're seeing people agreeing that
that's
robotic...
interesting. So you're talking that 30% where he's just pressing those buttons, he uses that 30% of his time to do similar to what he's using his 70% of his time to do.
Yeah, it's creative tasks to write the program.
It's 30%.
It's 30%.
Yeah,
70% is
correct,
just
yes.
picking up a piece
I've
of
got the
metal
numbers the
and
wrong way round, but yeah.
loading a bar.
Yeah.
Or loading a...
So taking that 70% and essentially turning that into creative time as well.
Yeah, so that you can have one man running several machines, and it works very well indeed. Makes the company more efficient. Where we're finding, what we're working hard to do is to break that old-fashioned ethos of robots, automation down. Traditionally, if you had a robot, you were doing millions of parts on the same machine. The robots that we represent are aimed squarely at the UK market. Those customers that are doing batches of 10s and 20s and 50s that need to take the cost of the labour out of simple parts. Our robots can be set and up and running in 10 or 15 minutes from one job to another. They're aimed squarely at that, not the big automotive. That's not us.
It almost needs a different name, doesn't it? Other than a robot. I know there are.
Absolutely,
I know there are labels.
I see where you're going. The logic
but
of
it's
it.
that kind of. As soon as you hear the word robot, it is what you say. And if it was called, I don't know, whatever you want to bring into your mind, you could actually change the mentality so people see it differently. It's amazing the power.
And we were just talking to Open Mind, and he gave us some astonishing facts and figures in regards to, you know, the percentage of companies that are not using software to write programs with complex programs and still choosing to write them themselves. A lot of end users have still not embraced that technology, and partly because they're not confident in that technology. They're not educated in that technology.
You may have a good point.
Is this the same with automation?
To a degree. Because of our robotic systems are new to the UK market. My son, over the last 18 months or 2 years, has been looking for innovative companies to undertake this new technology, so that we, Hydrofeed, can get referrals to take people there. We firmly believe that we are on the upward climb now, and that those early on uptakers are thereabouts ready to go, because they have seen that what's going on in European politics, with the lack of skilled staff, with the necessary way that the UK PLC has to become more competitive to bring work back to the UK. All of those ingredients are certainly helping automation. Where we need to be concentrating our efforts on now are the banks. When we visit our European counterparts, the banks will certainly happily finance the machine tool and the robot. Whereas here, it's still the Dickensian attitude that, if the company doesn't perform very well, the machine tool is worth something, but we're not prepared to finance the robot.
Really?
So we're having to educate the banks to say, look, this isn't a bespoke piece of equipment. This will load
part
and
of the
unload.
process.
Absolutely.
Part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're slowly doing that. So there's a long way for us to go, but coming back to your original question, these exhibitions allow us to do that.
Yeah, they do. And there are a few of you that are really trying to push this, equally like we are, because it is an education. One of the other interesting things about Hydrofeed for me, Martin, is you are a British manufacturer as well, aren't you?
We are, yeah.
So your bar feeds are made in Milton Keynes?
Yeah. Most of them are made in Milton Keynes.
Made in Milton Keynes. You've built up a phenomenal name with this brand as a result of what the performance, the reliability, the cost. What's your opinion on that? Or all three, you may say.
Okay, so my philosophy over the years has always been I would sooner have an engineer, an installation bar feed engineer, looking for a job, rather than one of my customers looking for an engineer. I'm happy to carry that expense. I know the competition. He knows the competition.
Yeah.
If we don't offer that service, then it doesn't give any advantage for anybody to come to us. The product is good, as are our competitors' products. They're good, but we want it so that if there's an issue, I have somebody that can be there in 24 hours, that we have a a good support team, which we've just expanded for customers to pick the phone up. It's the support, the quality we work on regularly. The costs, we have offshored some of the work, but we control it, we control everything. So in answer to your question, it's just about giving everybody good service. I know that sounds a bit sycophantic, but it's the truth. We don't want to become an also-ran. We can't afford to be.
And I think probably a final question from me, and Gio may have one as well, is that you sell automation. Do you practice what you preach?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Plant?
Yeah, we've got robots in our own factory. We're waiting, my colleague who takes care of the subcontract side of my business, we're waiting for an aerospace long-term agreement to be signed. Once that signature's on, we will be investing in another 2 robots in our factory on the milling side.
Do you get discount?
Can't answer that one, Paul.
And my final question
Gio,
really
be
is...
gentle on me, Gio, come on.
Yeah, in regards to, we've kind of hit a point of, maybe in the UK we still do need educating, and open houses like this are a perfect way to educate people. But apart from the open houses, what kind of methods have you got to kind of get your message across?
That's a really difficult one.
Sorry.
The only way we can do it is by functions such as this, visiting customers. We've been invited into another machine tool company to do a seminar on automation. We've done it at a couple of places. We invite people into our company. My son visits as many people as he possibly can. It's just slowly eroding away those old attitude toward robotics and hoping that the UK will embrace it.
Brilliant, thank you.
Good stuff, Martin. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Martin. Thank you very much.
Speak to you soon, gents.
Take care.
Another fascinating insight into it. Again, another different...
I think education is a big thing, isn't it, Paul? And hopefully we're doing our part to educate people. And I think that means a lot to all of us that work at MTD. It is all about education, because until people are confident in a product, they're not going to invest in it.
They need to be convinced.
Exactly, yeah.
And now we've got David Waghorn, who's the Managing Director. David? So David's going to join us now. David, it's been, well, in fact, I'm repeating myself here on a few occasions. It's been a fantastic couple of days for you again. This event always seems to succeed, doesn't it, for you at Hurco? What do you think it is?
I think we always have. We always book the 2 dates. They're on we give a calendar out start of the year, and it's always got the 2 dates for the open house. Yeah, it's well publicised. It's a good event. You get to see a lot in quite a short amount of time.
Looking at the machines that you've got here, we had a chat with Graham Maskell earlier. I'll ask you the same question. Highlights, because there's lots of new stuff coming through from her.
Yeah, I think the big highlight is the software, the new software, the solid model imports. There's been a number of customers who've come in specifically to see that. If you're a regular Hurco user and you understand the benefits of conversational programming out the machine, 3D solid model import really gives you conversational data blocks straight from an IGES file or a step file. It's really a big step forward.
So, okay, software aside, what about the hardware?
Well, there's a lot of nice machines. Certainly what we're trying to show is we're becoming more and more a 5-axis supplier. I think 25% of our sales last year were 5-axis. And we have a range of about 14, 15 5-axis machines. So what's nice here is people can see 3 or 4 different configurations and work out what's best for them. There's no right or wrong way with 5-axis. It's what kind of work do you have and what best suits your application.
And do you think the market is growing at the same speed that you are, or are you outperforming machine tool consumption from other areas, do you think?
Interesting question. I believe we're doing very well, so that's probably the one thing I'd say. Yeah, if you look at the MTA data, clearly the market's doing well, but we've grown since we've been in this building, 2002. We've grown 10% a year on average ever since we've been here. Where I think it's pretty clear the machine tool market hasn't grown that quickly.
That's an incredible statistic, isn't it?
Yeah, Dave, with the machine tools that you offer, with the new software, are you targeting manufacturers that do low to medium volume work?
Yeah, Hurco's speciality has always been small volumes, one-offs, prototyping. I'd say more high value added. So we're not particularly hitting a certain marketplace, but customers who never know what the next job's going to be, ideally as much work as possible, as complicated a part as possible, and a smaller volume. That's really Hurco's speciality.
And that is where we see machine shops up and down the land using your machinery. And with success comes growth, physically as well.
Yes.
This building.
You don't mean.
No, I'm talking about myself here. This building itself, it is still quite a sizable showroom, but I believe you're moving to an even bigger one.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that it's very tight in here. It has been the last couple of years. Yeah, hopefully in the next week or so I should have signed a lease on a new building. We're looking to move to somewhere twice the size. Staying in High Wycombe, but a proper company headquarters with twice the size demo centre, bigger offices, everything, yeah.
That will be good.
Year on year, you're growing and it's been your best year after year after year after year. Is the range of your machine tools the secret behind your success?
We've certainly expanded the range, so the addition of we had a new 5-axis machine again this year. We've had several additions. There's a lot planned for the future on the turning centre side, which I think will help us expand more. But the software is still what it comes down to. People love the Hurco software. They love the Max 5 control. They love the twin screens, the touch screens, the ease of use, the accessibility of the product, the ability to get from an idea to a first off finished part it's always been Hurco's thing, and it still is.
What about your team as well? Because we talk about products, but it has to be backed up and supported by a great team. I have to say, in travelling around, talking to tooling, machine tool suppliers, everybody has a common feeling about Hurco. You keep your people, and how important is that to you?
It's very important, yeah. Obviously, I pay them a fortune. That's obviously how they go. They're only here for the money in the end. Same with anyone else, yeah.
Gio, you're not going anywhere.
Oh, yeah, it's advice for you. Yeah, we've got a very established team. Again, I think I counted something like 12 people over 25 years service. We've got some very experienced service engineers, very good application staff, and a very good steady sales team as well, who've been with the product a while and appreciate. I think particularly for a sales guy selling Hurco, it's a nice thing to do because there's an ownership there. We're not just we sell a lot of machines, you can get this cheap, we'll do you a deal. It's very much understanding the benefits of the product, buying into the philosophy, and understanding what you're getting for your money.
And when you do introduce a new machine into the range, let's take the VM5 behind us. We mentioned this a few times on our podcast today. Does it add to your sales volumes, or does it take sales away from other machines? Because that's always a danger of bringing new products into a portfolio, isn't it?
Particularly when you bring out a lower cost one. The fear was when we brought out the VM5 that it might impact VM10 sales. VM10's probably our best volume machine. The answer is no, looking at the stats. The VM5 is very specific. We have a lot of customers where the doorway, need an extra little bit of space, they need to get through to get into a tiny gap, and the VM5 is just a little bit more compact than a VM10. It gives a bit more variety, really. It gives a bit more choice. The idea is we can access as much of the market as possible. So I haven't seen it. Sometimes you could argue by adding another 5-axis machine to the range, we're taking a sale away from one product or another. But the truth is you've got to try and supply something that everyone needs, really, and if there's a need. So the VM5, for example, we're finding people are buying them for their apprentices, so they might have a lot of Hurco machines and it becomes a second op machine or a trainee machine, something like that.
Because it could be the same could be said about the BX versus the C-frame model. But yeah. I suppose they are a slightly different market, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the BX goes into a new market for us, really. We have a number of mould maker, press tool maker customers. The BX probably takes a little step upwards, so there's a bit more accuracy, a bit more speed. Yeah, and you're right. Someone who bought maybe a VMX 64 last time might buy a BX next time, but I think we're satisfying the need better. So the reason they buy a BX is because they're looking for that little bit extra performance.
And in regards to, you mentioned turning centres and advancements in turning centres and introducing new models. When is this likely to be?
Soon, is what we always say. There's some driven tool product that we're hoping to see through the summer and into next year. Maybe in our new facility, our Christmas open house, I would hope to have a couple of driven tool lathes here to show them.
Is this demand for turning centres come from your customers?
Yeah, the customers love the way the programming works. They would buy a turning centre from Hurco not to make 1,000 to 20,000 washers. They'd buy a turning centre from Hurco to make one-off parts, so one-off turn components, want to input conversational data, get a first part off as quick as possible, maybe develop a job on site, edit it on the machine. And that's where, if they like the mill programming, you can see where the benefits are on the turning side.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
One of the things about your machines as well, Dave, is that you supply often into into small to medium-sized companies, often startups.
Yeah.
How are you finding that market at the moment? Are you still seeing a lot of startup businesses? Are you finding that that's increasing, or is it becoming less of an area where you're supplying to in recent months?
Yeah, at the moment, I mean, every company I know is doing well. All our subcontract customers are busy and they've got a lot of work. So they're doing everything they can to hang on to staff. I'm probably not seeing as many startups as I used to. But you get them, and it's quite nice. Start out with a VM10, TM8. It's quite a nice package, decent finance, and we still see them, and they're our ideal customer base, really. If there were more people starting up, it would help us.
Yeah. Well, and Hurco is a company in the UK and Europe. You're doing well. How do they look at things in the States, or how are things for the company on a global level? Are they seeing similar success to you here in these shores?
This year in particular has been very successful. I think when we looked at the predictions at the start of the year, we knew economies around the world, mainland Europe, would always be good. Whilst I'm bragging about a record year this year, I know Hurco Germany, Hurco Singapore, Hurco India, all delivered record years. So as a company, I believe they're going to hit 300 million this year, which will be the first time in Hurco's history. So, yeah.
Wow. And I think we've been speaking to some of your technical partners as well, Dave, that are here to support you. And one of the subjects that we looked at was automation and higher volume work. And through my own experience, I worked at an aerospace company where we had a cell of Hurco machines doing high volume aerospace work on with 4-axis units and special fixture plates. Now, just because they probably lend themselves more to low volume work, it's not to say that they will not lend themselves to high volume work. And what solutions do you have for high volume?
Okay. Well, I think my point would be there. Yes, certainly if your Hurco's making good parts, it can make a lot of them as well. And because we have a broader range now, there are some machines which are much better suited for production. The truth about automation is it's not just for high volume production. We're showing the Aroa system here, and why the Aroa links so well with the Hurco is because you can do 48 one-off parts. That's really what's special about it. And I think to think that automation is suited to high volume is probably the wrong approach. You can do some volume. We like the idea of maybe doing the complex parts first during the day, then having an easy running job at night. But yeah, the great flexibility. I mean, obviously we can integrate with a number of automation systems, and I think maybe a robot arm or something like that suits itself to the sort of high volume stuff. We can offer a couple of those, but the Aroa, what's fantastic about that is the flexibility of all types of work, and our system just calls in through a job list system, so it can call in one job after another.
I think that's a great point, Gio, because we see this a lot, the automation being added to machines, and I know you're using a third-party product there. When do you think it will be when Hurco have their own fully integrated cell with an automation solution?
I don't know. If you went to IMTS this year, there were 3 automation solutions that they showed, and there's a big project group working on automation. And I think linked into automation is Industry 4, and there's a lot of effort being made to open the control up, make the data accessible, and start Ethernet linking with CMMs, with spark erosion machines, things like that, as well as other Hurcos. So we keep our eyes open. It's important. It's good to have a competitive product that you can offer, but it's also very important to have an open system. So if someone has a particular favourite automation system, we can integrate with it, and we like that accessibility.
I totally agree. I think that's probably one of the potentially the drawbacks of having your own cell, for example, is maybe it's not quite so easy to integrate something that somebody's familiar with and already using. So having the best of both worlds might be an option.
Yes, that's it. And I think initially we can look at what's on the market. I see automation heading the way 5-axis has. So we talked a lot about 5-axis, and now we're selling it a lot. At the moment, we're talking a lot about automation, but we're really not selling it at high volume. I think give it 4 or 5 years, and we'll be putting automation more and more with machines. And I think some of that is down to the understanding of what you can achieve with automation.
Good stuff. Well, David, thank you very much for joining us on today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good luck for the show.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, Dave. Happy Christmas.
Thanks a lot. Happy Christmas, yeah.